Okay, so now I want to talk about rendering and re-rendering. So let me explain you with an example what rendering and re-rendering is, because if not, it's a little bit hard to explain. So I'm gonna go to right here. I don't have anything right here, and we only get data with the name of Francis. So what I want to do, I want to display an H1 with the name we have inside data. So we're gonna say name. And of course, the application reloads, and of course, we get Francis. We kind of know this. So this is actually, it's re-rendering. Whenever the application loads, the data, it's not here yet, all right? We just have an empty value. Nothing is happening. So then the application is going to go right here to new view. It's going to do everything. It's going to detect that we are using a name. It is going to re-render and put the value, all right? Okay. So what happens if I want to change this Francis dynamically? So we want to do a re-render in a manual way. Let's say manual. So I'm going to be adding a method. So I'm going to say methods, open and close, and update. I'm going to call the function update. Doesn't matter. You can call this whatever you want. So this update, what it's going to be doing after a few seconds, and I'm going to do a set timeout. After maybe 2 seconds, it's going to update and change the name to Steve, let's say. And this is going to happen after 2 seconds. So how can we access this data name and change the value of this? Really simple. We just make a reference to that name, and we say this one is equal to maybe something new, in this case, Steve. So again, remember that this is an object. So we are just accessing everything as an object. So I'm going to save it. And of course, if I reload the application, nothing really happens because we need to trigger this update method. All right, so I'm going to go right here at the bottom and say update. And then, of course, never forget the parentheses so we can trigger the function as soon as the application loads. So I'm going to reload it. The application re-renders with the new value. All right. Okay, so this is re-rendering. Now let me give you a different example, and this is the main point of this lecture, because we are still learning about directives, and there is a directive very related to rendering. So what happens, let me just put this, now we get to Francis, okay? You can render whatever you want right here. If you want to output the name 100 times, you can totally do it. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to re-render the application whenever this update kicks in. Is going to update the first name. But what I want to do is not update the second one. If the application re-renders, I don't want to modify this one. So we do have a directive to prevent this, and this one is going to be called v1s. So whenever we use a v1s as a directive, of course, in an h1 or maybe a div, or whatever you have right here, you could have a div with a lot of things inside. And if you put a b1s on that element, the application will only render once. So if you change the values right here, it will not show the changes. So if I save it and reload the application, we get Francis. For the first one, we get re-rendered with a Steve, but the second one will not change. This is because of the b1s. I wanted to talk about this before we go to the next one, which is events, and the events are related to directives. So let's go to the next one and start with events.